Hi, I'm Joe Denler, General Counsel for the Elite family of companies and the Director of Claims for the InterNACHI RPG Insurance Program. Today we're going to talk a little bit about contracts, more specifically about clauses that should be in your contracts. Now, the primary tool we use in this regard is a limitation of liability clause. And what that means is that you're asking your client to agree that if they have any claim related to your work, that any damages available to them would be capped at the cost of the services that you provided. These clauses are very effective, but they're only good in states that allow us to use them. Right now, about half of the states in the United States allow us to use these clauses in the contract. Other reasons they may not be enforced relate to unconscionability, and what that really means is the deal so unfair to your client that the court has to step in and change the terms of your contract. Another factor that can play into this is whether or not your client actually had an ability to read and understand what they were signing before they signed it. The best way to effectuate this is to get the contract out to them right after you make the appointment. That way they've had it for some time, have a chance to review it, have a chance to have their attorney review it, and when they sign it, we can reasonably presume that they've read everything and understood it. The limitation of liability clauses must be clear. They should be set apart from the other language in the contract with bold or italic type, and they should be by themselves in the contract and not mixed and jumbled in with other provisions. Other major contract clauses that we use on a regular basis include contract clauses that limit the statute of limitations or the time period when someone can bring a claim, and also clauses that relate to limiting the scope of your work. The clauses that relate to limiting the statute of limitations or time to bring a claim simply create a new statute of limitations for your claim. For example, in a state like New Jersey, there's a 4-year statute of limitations where somebody has that much time to decide to bring a claim against you related to their home inspection. If you limit that time in your contract to a year, for example, now they only have a year to bring that claim, and we can use that to defend you. Understand, of course, that the same issues apply to these that apply to limitation of liability clauses. They must be clear, they must be concise, they must be set off from the other text in the contract, and it must be easily understood by your client. The reason these are so critically important is because during that time period, whether it's 4 years, 2 years, 6 years, major changes can happen to a house, particularly when you're in an area like the Northeast where there's a lot of weather conditions, or places in the Southwest where the heat creates tremendous issues with regard to the home. In those situations, we want to keep that time period as short as possible. I will tell you that in my experience, most judges or juries or arbitrators won't enforce something that's less than a year. But again, we have to try to enforce these things wherever we can to try to limit that time period when someone can bring a claim against you. The other clause relates to the scope of your services. If you're in a state that's regulated, that clause should refer to your state standards of practice. If you're in an unregulated state, it should refer to the InterNACHI standards of practice. Those clauses are critical because we want the client to understand what standards of practice we're going to use, and more importantly, how that limits the scope of the work you're going to do. We also do that by adding in particular provisions in your standard of practice that are universally accepted as things that aren't included. These might include detection of hazardous materials, detection of pests or other vermin, or issues related to areas that we can't access without breaking something on the property or putting ourselves in a bad situation. You should always make sure that those 3 clauses are in part of every contract that you issue, whether it's for a home inspection or ancillary services, and that you have a good handle on what your state will allow and what it won't. If you're a member of the InterNACHI RPG program, we provide you with contracts for your home inspections and any ancillary service you do that are written specifically for your state. If you're interested in those, please contact us. We're happy to provide them, and best of luck in your future work.